Good afternoon and welcome to our Saturday sports special, part of TalkSports, and I welcome all our viewers from far and wide, and thank you for joining us. Well, as you have seen, my location is different, okay, and you would have probably heard about that over the past few weeks. So I'm actually coming from you live from Minneapolis in Minnesota. I'm actually based, and I'll be based there for the next few weeks, okay? So a program is actually emanating from Minneapolis. Well, today and this weekend is the monthly open discussion where we give you, the viewers, the opportunity to discuss and to comment on various sporting issues. But so much is happening now that, the last few months, there was some level of restriction in terms of how much we could talk about. And there was a lot of anticipation and expecting to do this and to do that. Well, the easing of the pandemic shows that it's almost a busy sporting schedule now. There's cricket being played. We had the cricket in Grenada. We have the ongoing test series between West Indies and South Africa. There is the World Test Championship being played between India and New Zealand. So cricket being played all over. Then there is the NBA, the basketball, the finals, the conference finals taking place. There is football. We have World Cup qualifiers. We have CONCACAF Gold Cup coming up. We have Euro 2020 on, Copa America, there's football being played, okay, a lot. But again, there's track and field. Well, chief among them now for this weekend will be the U.S. Olympic trials and preparations for the Tokyo Olympic Games. So a lot is really happening. And we had the NCAA's just completed a week or two ago. So a lot basically on our plate. So we have a lot to discuss and a lot that are being discussed now. But and then earlier in the week I had Mr. Ali DeBellot, who spoke on a number of issues, and some of them I want to raise and discuss with others. And I think one of my sincere viewer. He is Rudian Sylvan in Canada is already waiting, and I know he always has something to share, something to talk about, and I will introduce him in a moment, and then there'll be others who probably will chip in and have some things to say. But first of all, let me welcome Rudian to the program. Good afternoon to you, Rudian.
Hey, good afternoon. How you doing? Thanks for having me on another weekend, another time, Sports Talk. It's always a pleasure to be on with you. I'm spreading the word in sports and what our views are and what we think what's happening in the world of sports. So thank you again for having me on.
Okay, well, it's always a pleasure having you on the program, and there are a number of things I know that you may want to talk about. And as I indicated to our viewers that on Thursday I had Mr. Ali DeBellot, and he spoke in depth on a number of issues. And there's one I want to start off by. A lot had to do with his views on certain things that are taking place. And I thought he made a lot of sense in his views on certain things, and it relates to the whole issue of scholarships, the disparity in scholarships and the career day. And what Mr. Ali DeBellot, who, by the way, is a former national footballer and cricketer, and also a national football coach in Grenada, And what he was basically saying was that there's a disparity in the way scholarships and specifically in Grenada being distributed. And he was more or less making the case for people involved in sports so that, you tend to give more academic scholarships, for example. Someone who, with 7, 8, 9 subjects, will probably get a scholarship, quicker get a scholarship than an athlete, a footballer, a basketballer with, 5 or 6 subjects, you know, and he was showing the disparity. And the other point he made had to do with career day, that our kids are basically brainwashed into thinking that there is only when you're growing up, and we probably were part of it, that June career day is either you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a pilot, the sort of career that is just, the common ones that you will see. And again, he was making a case for the sportsmen and sportswomen that how many kids will want to be a cricketer, a footballer, a sportsman, a coach,
Yeah.
And probably if they do, someone may laugh at them, may joke at them, you're not serious, And then the whole issue about as a teacher, if a student asks for time to go and read in the library, that will seem superior than a kid who wants to go and play some football, wants to play netball, wants to go and run, jogging, playing games, as they would say. So what I will do first, I will bring in the piece with Ali, and then I'll come to you, Rudy, and then we'll
Yeah, no
discuss
problem.
further. Just hold on. Yeah.
Is the state of play in terms of football and football development in Grenada as Ali developed as a former national football coach?
All right. Glad to say former national because I still coaching. But I think the standard of football is very, very low. But I don't think the FA is to be blamed, but I'm not too sure they're addressing the situation. And that has been happening for a while without being noticed, right? When I started in the coaching in the primary schools, you had the guys common entrance and school even guys playing. Right? In recent time, you
Well, I just want to. I think I brought in the wrong one, so here I go in with the correct one now. Yeah.
All right, that you see people giving the top 10 people common entrance or certain thing, some scholarship and thing. Right. Once they started something, a sports scholarship, which was it was not a sports scholarship because all you was doing, you was sent to a school. All right. But just also you could have the incentives for these academically bright students. You could do it, in Grenada, so the child could get the scholarship from the secondary school to TAMCC and to TAMCC to. I mean, I know of 2 guys right now that are going to School Ahmed, top cricketers, top.
St.
And
George's University, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And something I don't know if it's the association because government can't do everything. So when we could spend all that money, and I really had to keep talking about it, for the people who probably disagree with me hard enough. But when you're going to be spending this amount of thousands of dollars on coaches, and that is just not Grenada, right? We're only talking Grenada here because the Trinidad coach wasn't getting more. So it's not just Grenada, it's a Caribbean thing. We could take some of that and help a young footballer because at the end of the day, it's the incentive as to what you're getting out of the sport. I mean, to be honest, if a fella asks me now, Pastor, if he should play football, I ain't answering. You want to play, play. I ain't answering because I can't tell him what he going to get. What is the future for him except he going to make Grenada nationality. What else? All right? And then a new coach come and they get rid of him and that is it. we had to set in, and you know, talking about that basketball, glad to talk about the carry day thing, you know. I don't know if you ever been to one, but I am probably 100% sure that at a carry day, children jump dress up as firemen, policemen, all kind of things, doctor, lawyer.
Even a pilot.
Yeah. I wonder how many ever say they want to be a sportsman. And let me tell you, we have sportsmen here that has done extremely well. But when they go bring in the fireman and they bring in the this man and they bring in the that man, they bring in a sportsman to say, well, the Devon Smith and the Roy Lewis and the one of the javelin or Peters, we have it. But sport is being put on that second, I don't know, lower level. That I remember when I brought women football into the secondary school. And when I went, Convent were in a semi-final. And the match had to start 2:30. And the teacher or the principal at Convent decided children not going to play the match because they're practicing for a debate championship. And Convent went on to win the competition that year. But is the concept of this, some of the principal and the teachers when it comes to sport. You know, if you lunchtime you decide you're sitting down and read a book whole lunchtime, you being considered top. If you say like going outside and take a little knock with a cricket, they want to know if you're getting crazy.
You're going to play games. You're going to play games.
You're going to idle.
Yeah.
When West Indian cricketers are some of the highest, the cricketers that here now are paid better than most of the civil servants. So why a little more emphasis in photo health? And the more we have, is the more competition there will be, and the chances of us getting better will happen. You know. So if we don't, this scholarship thing it always amazes me why you will give people scholarship to go to learn to teach, but not giving them to go to the school to learn. I never could really understand it.
Yeah. So, Rudian, much sense has been made of Mr. DeBellot's comments?
Oh, most definitely. For the whole week, when I listened to this comment, it really settled with me and I resonated and I listened to what he says. And there's a lot of things he said. I've been saying it for quite some time.
Rudian, before you continue, if you can just settle because I'm not seeing you right. Yeah.
Much better, right? Yeah.
Probably more to the middle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been saying for a long time, we have to start with grassroots. Before he brought in football for the girls in Grenada, I've been saying this for a long time. We need to have football for girls. I remember when I was in university, there was a girl playing soccer from Trinidad. And I said, if Trinidad could have soccer girls, why can't Grenada have it? And I've been saying this for a long time. And that's many years ago, when I went to university. But everything have to start in the grassroots. We look at scholarships and how many athletes, track and field athletes in Grenada went to a Division I school in the US. 2, most of them go to a junior college. But you go to some place like Jamaica, Trinidad, Bahamas, they go straight to the Division I school. What makes their education different from our education? Mm-hmm. Because there is no pushing for the kids. There is nothing for the athlete. When it comes to track and field or when it comes to sports in general, there is nothing. And how what incentive you giving young men to play sports? What incentive you giving them to play cricket or even football? Because we should have a national junior team, a national under-20 team for cricket and for football in Grenada. We are a small country. We should have a national junior team, track and field team ready to go to a meet. And you can switch and you should have that right now.
Yeah, I think the issue has to do with and I think Ali developed the point as well in terms of the development, and when you look at the sporting disciplines, as you rightly said, each national team should have a junior team you know, an age group team, even if it's cycling, for example, you know. As you said, cricket, well, I think cricket may have their under 19, they have their under 15 teams and things. So there are certain sports that do have, you know, a structure in place, right?
I see doing is swimming. The
Right.
swimming have different age group, and then they
What,
grow and they grow. That's the only thing that I really see into.
but no, but on the for argument's sake, cricket has they have under 19 and they have under 15 because they do participate in the regional under 19, well, the Windward Islands, I should say, under 19, under 50. Except that what we have is that, and to an extent, you know, is because, you know, folks move out of the age groups. So you know, every year or every season rather, you need to have, you know, new players involved and things like that. So what it is though is that in the case of track and field, you know, except for probably the Tarifta Games where you have to select a team every year and things like that. So there isn't any structure in place. You just select, you look forward to the Tarifta game, you select a team, and that's your junior team. Again, I'm saying in the case of probably cricket, probably football to an extent, because they have tournaments, you know. They have a team and the team participate in tournaments for a period of time until probably the guys move out of the age. What though we probably need to see as part of the development is the inclusion of girls. You know, we need to see more inclusion of girls. So yes, West Indies playing women's cricket, but do we have a functioning women's cricket team, a functioning women's youth cricket team? Likewise, do we have a functioning women's football team? Yeah. You know, these are the sort of things. Basketball is another sport, you know. Do we have a national senior team? Do we have a national junior team, as the point you're making, you know? Do we have a national women's team? Yeah. You know, so we need to have proper structures in place for these national associations.
Even going back to with GFA, I've been saying it with a few of the people that I speak to, and I said, why can't every team? I mean, I'm from St. Patrick's, I'm from Sates, so you know, I'm always the Eagles and the North Stars, you know, growing up. And why can't St. Patrick's have a under 19 and then a under 15, just St. Patrick's alone, and then St. Mark's, and then you have region playing. So football is continue growing, and it doesn't have to be a season all year long. So we have the weather, we have the fields all year long, and constantly playing the sport and let the sport grow. Have St. Patrick's National, have a St. Patrick's netball team that goes for both a senior team and a junior team, and is constantly running over and over again. And people are willing to do it, and there are people out there who are willing to support. But support only comes when you have a structure. And when you don't have a structure, how can I support you? It's hard for me to support you if there is no structure. And that's one of the issues that we are having. There is no structure, there's no foundation in Grenada for sports in general. There is no foundation. They only focus on specific sports and not all sports. So then we have a problem where kids jump from sport to sport and seasonal, when you have a great cricket player who never get a chance because of whatever circumstances, and end up playing soccer, or end up going and play basketball, or end up doing something else. And so we lose out on a lot of our young generation, and that's the foundation that we have to depend on, because they are the future.
Yeah, well, it's quite a lot, you know, in terms of, and for some reason, and I think we spoke about that, we are hoping that, you know, we would have used the period of inactivity for a while during the pandemic to put structures in place to make sure that when things are back to some level of normalcy, that we're ready, you know, to hit the ground running. Are you confident, or are you, you know, feel assured that this is what we have done and that is what we are doing, Rudy?
I don't think so, because I haven't seen anything to show that. And I speak to a lot of people and I ask questions, but there's nothing based on what they are telling me, because I'm not in Grenada and I'm not in some of the islands, but I see in some of the islands there are something taking place. They are doing some sort of movements, because I have friends all over, and there's some sort of movements taking place. I like to take a piece from here and a piece from there and try to, because I always think of Grenada first. When it comes to sports, I always think of Grenada and think of how can we do this? How can this get done? And I listen to what other islands are doing, and I say, well, you know what, that's not a bad idea. Take a piece from that island, put it together and say, why can't we come together and structure? But I think we have an issue with people want position and they not really want the job. They just want to have that title, and not. Listen, we have a lot of great football players that should be national coaches right now, and they're not. What's the cause of that? And they left the sport. They're just roaming around. What's the reason for that? It's because we have people in position who say no, they're not good enough, and they're just in position for the position's sake to have that title, and not to the Ministry of Sports need to do a full revamp and a full structure, and look at some things and figure out how can we make some move. What can we do? What changes can we get done in the school? Because it had to start in school. It must start in the school with the grassroots, with the young generation, and move up. They have to do a turnaround. They have to get back on the table, and that I haven't seen done, especially in soccer and track and field, in netball, just cricket alone, as you said, that has the different age group, which is good. But in the other sports, I'm not seeing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems as if there's a lot to be done. And by the way, may not be just the Grenada context, because I, listen to Ali, as you say, we're not in Grenada, we're not in the Caribbean, but there's a feeling that some of the islands have similarities in terms of those things, and it appears that there's a lot that has to be done, and for some reason we have a lot of lip service when it comes to sports. There's big talk initially. We committed, we dedicated, we this, we that. But when it comes to doing the real thing, yeah.
For example, look at, we're all in the same issue with pandemic, and Grenada is one of the safest places in the world or in the Caribbean for a fact, right? Why can't they run sports safely like Jamaica do? They run in track and field meets. Why Grenada haven't? That's the problem. Is the leadership. They don't know how to, they have to be able to put things in structure, look beyond. The mindset that opened up in this pandemic with people goes beyond. It amazes us. Get the things that they put in place now in this pandemic that people always had in them. Something had to happen for all of that greatness that they have in them to come out. Other islands doing it. Why not Grenada? And the kids are suffering. 2 years of no track and field. Using track and field as an example.
Well, they may have, probably to their benefit, may say, well, we have had a couple of the mini meets, the Whitsuntide games, these sort of things, but and to probably following, the protocols of the ministry. But as you said, other countries that are in probably, not, we are probably in a better position than some other countries, and somehow they were able to successfully, as you said, host, sporting events. As you use as Jamaica, for example, they have been able to successfully host track and field, championships, and Grenada, as you say, is one of the safest. The facts are there. It's clear that Grenada is one of the safest when it comes to the whole issue of COVID-19 and the protocol. So there's no reason why they can't. They are they're preparing to host cricket, T20 cricket. So there are a number of things I think that can go in their favor, and as you indicated, that should be able to. There's also the issue of more sports, more competitions, rather. When I say more sports, more competitions among the islands. What is your view about the staging of more competitions among the islands whether it's the Windward Islands or whether it's the OECS.
But one of the issue with that too is also come back again in what event, in what sport. Because in football it can be done because we have a national team. You could put a junior team together as well, and then you can go to region and play safely. Netball, you can do the same thing. Cricket, you can do the same thing. Um, Track and field is very hard because you cannot just pick a team out of the wind. People have to compete, so you have to have the competition. Um, Soccer, you could play games, but soccer is easier in a selection of a team than in track and field. Netball also because you've seen girls play netball over the years. You've seen them right now, so you could make a national team. So having a region um, uh, uh, within the OECS, I think is a great idea, and I think something that should happen because it keep the sport alive, especially in this time. Because in time coming, you see the sport are dying. Right here in Canada, track and field is dying. It's dying right now as we speak. The Our Canadian national championship,
Why you say track and field is dying in Canada?
because right now, because of the protocols that they have in place, we have no meets for 2 years. And even to go to the national championship, you have to be invited. So now it's selected events they have in, and they're just inviting certain people to come in. Not everyone I get a chance to. Those who is going to go to the Olympics, they're not going to be here. They're in the US waiting. So there's nothing happening right now here for track and field. And that kids who have to get scholarships, who are very talented, now have to find a way to go to school here in Canada. There's schools cannot take you with nothing, right? And there has been ways safely that we can host meets safely, but protocols and the sport is not first priority to them. So then we are in the situation where we are right now. So it is dying and it's hurting a lot of athletes because the pandemic is going to be there, the protocol is going to be there, but you as a person, you are growing in age. So one who was in grade 9 is now 2 years later is now in grade 11. They're not in grade 9 anymore. So the age aspect is no longer there. And those who is in grade 12, which is their final year, never get to compete in 2 years. So those who are very good athletes never get to compete, and their scholarship aspect is gone. And that goes for all the sports, soccer, baseball, all those sports is in the same position. Hockey is the only thing, but somehow they put hockey first. So hockey, they can get scholarship, they can play hockey, but in the other sports they can't.
Wow. So it's,
So,
as you say,
so
it's
it's hurting the athletes, especially kids who want to get scholarship. Especially kids who want to get scholarship. They have to do time trials and video and show schools. It's very, very hard to get scholarship. And that's talented athletes. So there go, you lose that athlete getting the chance to go ahead because they are getting older in age, right?
okay. Well, I saw a comment from Mike Batiste earlier saying that track and field meets were actually being held in Grenada. So I think it was correct that they had the mini meets and they had a couple other things. But he also claimed that they somehow it was the remainder of the season was sort of shut down, um, so that for some reason or the other. But
When I want to make a comment on the Korea Day, that they talk about, and I mean, a way I always commented, like again, I went to McDonald College, and it's always good. We have a lot of great athletes who have come out from McDonald College, who make it on the world stage, and they have a lot of. Recently, we had a doctor who came in and do something great in McDonald College, um, but it's more than just that, like you said. There are athletes who may not be. There are students who may not be doctors and lawyers and nurses, policemen. They would not, but they have the ability to make a living in a sport, in football or in cricket. And if we don't bring in the the the, the athletes, former athletes, to speak about what they've been through and how the opportunity for them to make it on another level, then there goes that again, right? A career day doesn't always have to go with people making in high paying jobs. It could be in low class paying jobs as well, right? Like in sports, especially in the Caribbean, it's very low. So it's because that's the talent that they have. Some of these people, that's the talent that they have. That's what they do. That's what they know best. They know sports. So you don't take that away from them. So you have to bring in other people to coming in than the doctors and the lawyers and the nurses. It is very important for that as well for the sporting to grow and give it the opportunity. One of the issues we have out here in the past is pole vault. Most of our meets don't have pole vault unless you get to the championship. A lot of kids never get to see what it looks like. They never get a chance to say, I want to get into that field because it's not something that at every track need to go to the pole. But there is the long jump, there is the high jump, there is everything else, right? And that's what they see. So the pole vault is just not growing as it should because it's not happening no way. A kid can see and say, yeah, I want to do that one day. I want to try. So a lot of things is designed because they're not given the opportunity to see and make that choice for themselves.
Yeah, well, again, for some people, they may use the whole issue of the pandemic, to make their claim as to why certain things not taking place. You speak to some sports administrators, the first thing they'll tell you is the pandemic, as if there isn't anything else they can do. But what I will do now is that aspect of the OECS sports that Ali actually was referring to. It had to do a lot with the let me get my thought. Most sports among the islands, especially in the OECS, right? This is what Ali was really speaking about, having more sports among the nations. And his contention was also that we tried to go to the big league,
Yeah. Yeah.
and sometimes get humiliated, and I think football was an example. And we have not passed that stage yet, and I think it was another good point. Some people may not see it that way. Yes, you need the experience, but he was making the point that, try to dominate that level first. And then, you move from stages to stages and things like that. So, and I thought it was, a very, very good point. Let's listen to Ali.
We could, I like the concept of development, right?
Right.
So let me say, for example, we have been bringing in Trinidad, bringing in our coach, 40,000 a month, Grenada, 10,000 a thing, or this person, a number of them bringing in. Why not bring in one person? Give them a thing, let it work with the coaches around the Caribbean, around the region, all right? And use them as observers to go and watch to see that the right thing is being done, the proper training program or the development. And let me try to develop for your own self. Starting at the national level, where you bring in people to coach the national team. That is when you have a good structure in the bottom, and now you
Yeah.
reach up there, and you want somebody at a high level to take control. But we ain't reached there yet. What happening to the bottom? So I think we have a lot of work to do if we want to see Caribbean. You see it in athletics. You see the individual coaches in athletics. We still have we own coach top in producing top sportsmen in the world, right? Um, People like Pablo and Maxwell and then you see the Trinidad and St. Lucia have a jumper, Dominica. This is local coaches. But what has happened with athletics? They go through the proper structure where you have certain exams and qualification and you move on. What we do in the Caribbean island, we have these things, you have to be licensed, this license, that license, but go and check to see people coaching some of these national teams. The
Yeah.
only thing they
Yeah.
have is their driving license. We really wouldn't. We ain't gonna make progress in that as well.
Yeah. So
And that is so true because for an example, a few years back, the leader of Athletic Canada never run track in his life. So how you could in charge of the biggest sporting event as track and field, and you never played the sport before, you're never involved in it, and that's the hard part. You have to
yeah,
get.
But some people may argue that you don't necessarily have to be. There's always a first time. You can grow into it. You can learn into it. There's always a first time. For example, a politician.
And that is true. But it's the time it takes to learn something, especially in the sport. It's so much the time you have to put in compared to somebody who really know it already. Someone who really in it already. You know what I mean? There's stories concerning a few coaches in Grenada who got positioned after the fact. And that shouldn't happen because they produce talented athletes. And some of them get absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. No recognition at all. And I'm going to give you one example. Somebody they might hunt me for this. Hensley Jeffrey, the St. Patrick's Irish School in St. Patrick's Elementary School. He's been around for the past 20 plus years. What recognition he got? So many great athletes. He won primary school sports. They won St. Patrick's sports many years. What recognition has he got? And he produced great athletes who actually move on and compete on the world stage. What recognition has he get? And I am an example to that because I come out from under his program. And that what really kept me into the sport all these years now, and I'm still in it. And what recognition does he get? So we have to be able to get away from some of the type. It's important. I have my coaching levels. It's important to have it. But we cannot always use that to feel I'm better because I have that. No. You gotta go to some of the grassroots coaches who has done great things and help them to get the certificate and put them in the position so that they could expand on the great gifts they have as coaches, because they can help so many young ones. But we don't get that opportunity because we don't have this. And those who have these certificates, and they're not truly because they don't love the sport. They're just in it. There's no love for the sport anymore. They're just in it because it's a position and it's a title. It's no longer the love of it. So find those people who has the love for the sport and get them to get the levels that they need to, the certification, and then put them in a position that they continue with the love that they have.
Okay. There's a comment here from Mike Batiste saying that you don't need to be an athlete to administrate. Being a skilled runner don't make you a skilled administrator. That's from Mike Batiste on his comment.
So true. I always use Phil Jackson. He wasn't the greatest basketball player, but he ended up becoming one of the greatest coach that ever played the sport, that been coaching in the sport, right? So I always use that as an example. But what we're seeing is results. And sometimes what we're seeing, we don't see the results from you being in that position. There is no result. There's nothing happening. So there's one thing you have to come into the sport, but there's another thing to produce the results for it. And if there is no results, why are you in the position?
Okay, yeah. Well, there is some who will argue, that they don't need to be, but so many things are in their, more or less in their favor these days that you can, develop the skill,
Yeah.
to be the best, whether it's an administrator. You didn't born an athlete, but you became an outstanding athlete. You were not born an administrator, but you became a skilled administrator. So these are things that could be, But there's also the point I want to talk to you about, and I know your thing is more track and field. But it had to do with, and I think we discussed that with some sports journalists about 2 weeks ago, and it had to do with looking forward to the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
And the prospects for Caribbean medals at the Tokyo Olympic Games. And it appears that the cupboard is bare, probably except for the Jamaicans and probably Bahamas. And obviously we have to put our Grenadians in the mix. The Anderson obviously going in as a world champion in the javelin throw is obviously considered a medal prospect.
Yeah.
And then we have the decathletes, Lyndon Victor in particular, and you never know what Kirani could do in the 400 meters. But generally and overall, there's a sort of lackluster, feeling about the Caribbean's performance at the Olympic Games. There isn't even that sort of build up, in terms of track and field, in particular, though, for the Olympic Games. What's your gut feeling about that?
Well, my build up is in the women's 100 meters. It's becoming very excited now, and I'm thinking that's the one area that I'm really looking forward to. Everything goes back to the younger generation of kids. The cupboard is getting bare on the veterans. Who is there? But we see a lot of over the NCAA. There's a lot of Caribbean kids who has been performing great. Hopefully, they could make a national team somehow and go there in a year or two, maybe at the next Olympics, and show their true colors. The young girl from Trinidad who's doing the HEP, she looks like she can probably do well, come close to getting a medal. I hope she can in the HEP in the Olympic Games. But it looks very, very bare, like we said. That we talk about that prior to. It looks very, very bare, and I don't see it more than in the women part, especially 100 and 200, and the 400 on the women's side. But when it comes to the men's side, the Caribbean itself is not there to get a medal. And I never lose faith in Kirani, never do. But what I'm seeing, it looks like it's a finals for him and not another medal, based on what it looks like on paper right now. However, on the day that really matters. I can say everything we want to say, but when it comes to competition day, that's what matters, because I've seen some kids really performing, and it's kind of nervous in that we chancing him getting a medal look kind of wearing. But I'd never not give hope. But come to other male in the Caribbean, I'm not seeing it. It's very bare, especially in the sprints. Especially in the sprints.
Well,
Like,
you correct.
no question about it in the sprint. The 100, the 200, we still have our Kirani, so we wouldn't give up. In the 400, but the 100 and 200, it is very, 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 very. Cupboard is empty now.
And then we can't forget, the Shawnee Miller out of the Bahamas. I think she has.
The women looking bright, but not definitely not on the men's side. So yeah.
Yeah, well, you're correct about that. Definitely the men's sprinting seems to be, and it appears too that if all goes well, the Americans may have a very good showing. Maybe a first time in a very long time.
Especially on the women's side, to win 100 meters, it hasn't happened since Bill Givers.
But that's because I'm following a lot of I'm on some of those chat groups there with a lot of trash talking, with the SFP and Richardson and others and things like that. So let's see what happens, whether or not, because first she has to make the team this weekend. She has to make the team. Richardson has to make the Olympic team. But the thing about it with the Jamaicans when it comes to the women is that the Jamaican women's team, making the Jamaica team, especially the women's, is almost as if you're running the final of the Olympic final. I mean, it is in terms of quality. I think by far they have the best female sprinters in the world.
And then we have that young girl from Oregon, University of Oregon. She's actually is definitely someone to talk about. That's a definite right there. So that just really what it is happening right now. We just have to. I was waiting to see what happened with character. That didn't happen. We still have NACAC under 20, under 23 in the junior games. Still waiting to see if it goes on. Because my athlete is waiting to see as well if she's going to go. And I was still, when I look at Jamaica and see somebody meets the high school meets, the young generation is still there. What happened beyond that, it's so hard to tell. But the younger ones coming up, and when I see in Jamaica, I said, okay, it's not gone, but it's missing. It's missing, especially in the men. It's there because you're seeing the performance, but what would happen 2 years from now? Are they still going to be around? What would happen 3 years? What happened at the next Olympics? Would there be a team going to Paris in the men for Jamaica? So it's really that's what I seen it in the high school. It's still there, and I'm waiting to see what happened with the NACAC, if games go on, and see what some of the countries send in, and see from that. But it's there. But in terms of 4 years from now, it's really hard to see the men in the Caribbean come up. The women definitely, but not the men.
Yeah, well, and that's for track and field, but the Olympics is multi-sport, and it's sort of well, not a shame, but I really was hoping at some stage that our focus will not just be on track and field when it comes to the Olympic Games. I mean, World Championships is track and field, yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's okay. But when it comes to the Olympic Games, it's sort of a shame that the Caribbean is not featured in other sporting events at that level as track and field. For example,
Especially in soccer. Especially in soccer.
well, not that we are world beaters, but I mean, at least we could be there. There are other sporting events.
I really was excited to see Caribbean team in other sporting events.
Well, is that Rudian? So while we are on that, is that a concern that the Caribbean has a long way to go in terms of its domination of sports? Albeit track and field, we can stand on our own in terms of track and field. But when it comes to football, when it comes to basketball, when it comes to swimming, when it comes to, some of the volleyball, major sporting events that actually played in the Caribbean as well, competitively in the Caribbean, we are not there as yet.
One sport in particular that I'm starting to become a little nervous about. It's still going to be strong, but the colleges now is starting to bring a lot of cricket players in to play baseball. And I think if that's the case, that's one sport I would love to see in the Caribbean, baseball. And it takes a lot to bring it in, to develop it, especially in the softball on the women's side. But I think that's one sport I would love to see in the Caribbean, expanded that can go as far as the Olympic Games. That's really what I would love to see.
Well, they do play baseball and softball in other parts of the Caribbean, the Bahamas, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Puerto Rico. So other parts of the Caribbean, it's there, albeit sometimes we don't consider them to be part of the mainstream Caribbean. And they're more considered to be part of southern Florida, southern USA, Florida, because of proximity. But you're correct. And I recall some years ago when we had the Shell Cricket Academy at the St. George's University in Grenada, which was basically developing cricketers. Some of the coaches were actually Cuban baseball coaches. So for the fielding in particular, I think I was a fielding and the bowling, fielding and batting, but I know definitely was a fielding because, baseball has a lot to do with the fielding as well. They actually had a Cuban baseball coach, and, it worked really good. And the players, I remember interviewing some of the players during that time, and they really enjoyed the sessions. Even some of our Caribbean cricket coaches, they were very pleased with the session that the Cuban baseball coach had with their players. So there's some sort of relationship, and similarities, because he has to do a lot of catching, fielding, except that in baseball and softball you slug, in cricket, your bat, and things like that. Even though in the shorter version of the game, the T20, the T10, you might be slugging,
Yeah.
But
And
there's
we really need to
some
expand. Like again, there is so many. When you look at the Olympics in general, you look at all these other little sports that you're seeing, field hockey, all these little things that you're seeing in the sport that I'm saying that why can't we develop on that? Why can't we? Because there's young girls who's willing to try, the young men who's willing to give it a shot and see, at least try it, give it a chance. You don't give nothing a chance and you assume that they don't want to do it. Give them a chance. Expand, and that's within the general Caribbean area that we know the most, not the southern parts, right? Those areas that we know. Let us expand on that sport because they may end up bringing netball in the Olympics one day, which something that can be. They might bring cricket in the Olympics one day. We don't know. A lot of the
the cricket has been talked about already, more the shorter version of the game, and I think T10 might make now that T10 is being played all over internationally, even in Grenada, T10 is being played. It may probably be the one that could get in as quickly as possible. I know T20, sorry, is making its way into the Commonwealth Games, for example. And therefore cricket has been knocking for the Olympic recognition, and I believe T10 may be the one that probably may just get it.
Yeah. But I really like to see, like again, other sporting event than track and field. Some of the islands have small swimmers, nothing to be on the podium, but they're there, so we're not going to take that away from them. But to see other sporting event, I really would like to see not only for Grenada but other islands in the Caribbean that we are so reckoning with the Barbados, Bahamas, Jamaica, Trinidad, Grenada, St. Vincent, those areas. I would really like to see with others, but especially in soccer, as we are such a high hope in soccer that we can go there. And Trinidad went to the to Jamaica was in the World Cup. Trinidad went there too. Why can't they get to the Olympics? Why can't they be in there as well to have another sport in there that we can look forward to? Volleyball. Same thing goes for volleyball. Beach volleyball. We have the beach. We have the players. We start to get it out there. Why can't we get in the Olympics by expanding on some of the sport? Give it a chance. And that's what I'm saying to the countries out there in the Caribbean. Give those sports a chance. If you don't work out, you don't work out. But don't just say no, it's not going to. Give it a chance. Give it a chance. Give it the opportunity to fail. Don't just say it's not going to fail. It's going to fail. Give it the opportunity to fail, and then we'll see where you go from them because they can surprise you. They can really surprise you.
Well, again, it's a challenge for our sports administrators, and that is what we have been clamoring for, the thinking outside of the box. A year and a half or more with some level of inactivity, enough time probably, for our sports administrators to be converging, thinking. I mean, you're not plagued by hosting tournaments and doing this and doing that. It was an opportunity for you to sit down in caucus with your executive, with your committees, whoever it is, and discuss ways, flush ideas that post-pandemic, what it is we can do to move to the next step, what it is we can do. Whether it has to do with fundraising, securing funds, securing sponsorship, whatever, development, a plan of action. A plan of action should be in place for most of these associations post-pandemic.
Yeah, and we could start even within the OACS. They can start out too with every island try a new sport. It could be, every island could have a different sport and expand and see how it develop. Is it a success? Can it be a success? Because if you have that now, then you could expand and you could expand, and then the next time around you just switch it around. You have 4 or 5 sports. You have every different islands have a different sport, and you just give it a chance and rotate around until it develop. That you could have the one country could have an extra 5 sports in the next 10 years. Or the next, in the next so forth, right? Whatever time period they want to give, right? But give it a chance. Get into with the OCS, sit down, the bottom to sit down and say, Let us see what we can do. Give other islands the chance to have another different sport in the Olympic Games, especially for the Olympic Games. And then a lot of the other sports is very easy to get into. Very easy to get into. But we don't have those sports, and it's hard for us to get to. All the European countries is getting in, and we don't.
Right. Just keeping a tab on what is happening around us in terms of sports. For those who are wondering, well, Portugal lost to Germany in the Euro 2020. Germany won 4-2, and then we had a 1-1 stalemate between France and Hungary. 1-1. And later today, we have Spain coming up against Poland in the Euro 2020. Some, very, very interesting results that's really going ahead there. And I can tell you, though, in the ongoing test series between West Indies and South Africa, the second test, day 2, South Africa eventually bowled for 298. But West Indies, after 3.3 overs, I'm seeing there, 18 for 2. 18 for 2. West Indies going after South Africa's first innings of 298. And in the World Test series between India and New Zealand, remember in the first morning was actually washed out. The first day, rather, was washed out. So at the close of the second day, which is basically the only day of play so far, India 146 for 3, 146 for 3, India versus New Zealand in the World Test series, the World Test Championship final being played. So, folks, a lot of sports being played, and it's one of the things. I don't know, Rudian, if you have that sort of experience. When you're not coaching, your weekend is basically a sporting weekend.
Yeah, I have my TV with all the channels, and I can split up my TV now, so I could have something like four sports running at the same time. So I'm just watching, going, especially with basketball going on right now. Even though my team is not in basketball, but I tried to get my Saturday to watch some soccer. A lot. Even if when I'm on walk, I put the TV on a sporting channel, and I'm watching some soccer. Mainly soccer. I watch, and later on the track and field is going to be on, but mainly soccer I look at, because is that just what's going on, especially you right now. That's what's going on.
Right, yeah. That is, I don't know. Somehow I know folks have and strange enough, I came across people who told me that they don't like sports. Period. They don't like sports. And I don't understand how you probably may not understand certain, like, for example, I know people who say they don't understand baseball, they don't understand golf, and that is understandable. Okay, if you don't play it, you don't watch it, so be it. But the whole concept of sports, you're telling me you don't like sports? Probably you don't like watching football, you don't like watching cricket, but don't tell me sports. I find it hard to believe that, that
I get a lot of people who don't. I get a lot of people who don't like watching a regular sport, like you come on the TV and watch a sport. But the minute the Olympics is on, they watch every sporting event in the Olympics.
Well, I mean, without calling names, I can tell you, it's strange enough that, one of the persons who told me that, I recall when I was in Rio in 2016, and I saw them posting, cheer up for Kirani and what have you, and for the Grenada Olympic team, they had the Olympic team thing. And I was like, oh, gosh, So therefore, that was just a prank, or that was just to tell me, well, don't tell me anything about sports, whatever it is like that. So, so sometimes when people tell me that, I'll just say, all right, okay, that's fair enough.
It's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, but don't, I mean, it's sort of blatant in saying that you don't like sports. Tell me you don't have an appreciation for football or for this or for that, but to tell me sports, I don't think there's anybody
that don't like sports,
that do not love sports.
Yeah, man, most people grow up.
not be a sports fanatic, you understand? You may not be me and you know, right? But somehow, if there's something about sports you like and it's shown on TV or you can go to it, you probably will do it. So there is some level of,
and it's the same goal with the basketball. Most people don't like to watch a regular basketball, but when the playoffs come, they're watching the playoffs.
Yeah.
If it's a final game, football, most people don't know what a touchdown is. They don't know what is a 10 yards is in football. But when it's the Super Bowl, they're having a party. They're having a party in the Super Bowl. I don't have a clue what's going on.
And you know, it brings the point now where it comes to the seriousness of our and when I say administrators, whether it's government, whoever it is, sports, and where I think there isn't this clear understanding and belief that for some of them that the benefits of sports, what sports can bring to communities, you know, the social fabric of society and the involvement of sports, you know, how, for example, in places like South Africa, they have been able to use sports, you know, to break barriers of apartheid, you know, these sort of things, and to unite communities. Even in the post-apartheid period, there was tension, there was and through sports, they were able to unify communities, you know.
It's so funny. I remember in school and they watching we have our health, and I'm watching a video of a gentleman, an Italian mother passed away and she was going to be buried, and Italy was playing a soccer game, and he said, "No, I'm going to the funeral." He said, "I'm going to the football game. I'm not going to my mom's funeral." Those things and bring in England, those small, the Manchester United and the Manchester City and the Liverpool, them community come together. That would bring them together. Sports bring a nation together. It brings our community together. We don't look how many people was jumping and hugging when Kiani went. They don't know each other.
Right. But, you know, there's a saying too that sports is also a unified language, you know, all of that. For example, let's look at the European Cup, Euro 2020, today's matches. France and Hungary, Germany and Portugal, and next up will be Spain and Poland. Which of these speak English? None. But you know, we have an interest in it. We looking at it. We watching it. We you know, there's English language coverage. You know, and not one of these countries, their native language is English. None. You know, German, French, Hungarian, Spanish, Polish, Portuguese, name it. There's in English. You know, but true sports. You know, we don't care about the language they speak. What we care about is the sport. They're playing football. And by the way, we may have fans. We may have fans when I say stars playing. You know, whether it's Ronaldo, whoever. You know, they don't speak our language. We don't know them. You know, through sports again.
And it's one of the things too, and I've been on it, and I've been asking the questions for a while. I'm trying to put something together, and I always, like, again, I'm from St. Patrick, I'm from Sutton. I'm trying to revamp the youths together by getting involved with sports, bringing them together with sports, trying to have sporting events, bringing sport together to bring back the community together. Man, one of the greatest things now happening in Grenada, a lot of these stadiums now have lights. So soccer is playing. They can play 2-3 matches in a day, and they go till late at night and they're playing sport. And the fans is there. People are out there late at night. Sports bring them together, and we have to use that to build communities. Use that to bring the people together, especially now in the pandemic. We gotta be able to use something to bring them together and bring them back, get them back going. You know, feel like, you know, they're getting back into some sort of, you know, old times, like it used to be, right? So that is a good thing that I always say, and I want to start with the young people. when you grow the young people and you have different things. I remember when I was growing up, Magna College grounds, playing local. I remember my soccer team. We are the youngest set of boys. We call ourselves young strikers, playing against all the bigger men. Sports bring us together, and the field was packed with people. Doesn't matter who is playing, sports bring a community together. And that's the thing that really we need to get. If you can get more sports in the Caribbean, different sports, you will get the support of the people. That the people, it doesn't matter what sport it is, they'll be watching sports. They'll be watching them. Somebody is in Spanish and they're just watching. They don't even know what they're saying, but they're just watching the sport because people love sports more than anything else.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. The the whole aspect of having sports for our communities, for our society, and also that help in some instances eases a lot of tension. People use sports to get out of poverty. All these sort of things through sports. And that's what we're saying, that it can be used in terms of the social fabric of society.
Of society.
Yeah, I mean, we have people who have told stories of their level of poverty growing
Yeah.
up and how they were able to move and better themselves and families through
Yeah.
sports.
Through sports, yeah.
Through
And we do it
sports.
all the time, and that's where the scholarship comes in. Getting these kids out on scholarships, but treating them properly. Like I said, and I can be wrong, they can correct me. That only 2 athletes I know in Grenada that went directly to a Division 1 school in the United States, and Kirani James is one of them. Everyone else who came out from Grenada went to a junior college before they could move on. Why? Because we don't have no one in control. Nobody. We don't have the administration looking out for them like they should. They have to go and find their own scholarships in a small nation as we are. That shouldn't happen. The country should come out and look out for our athletes and get them out there to expand themselves to make better. And most scholarships get people an education that is free, and they can do something for their family with that. They don't have to expand into going and play that sport on the world stage. No, they may not have the talent to play on the world stage, but they have the talent to get as far as in the college level. And they go there and do it, but help them get a scholarship. Help them come out from the poverty that they're coming out from. And poverty doesn't mean lack of money or living in a certain way. That's nothing. It could be the poverty of the sport itself, and expand them out of where they're at, because they are great athletes. So that's what I want to see. I want to see soccer players in Grenada go on scholarship. I mean, we don't have netball as big out there, but there is volleyball. That's what we have to build, volleyball for young girls, and then get them on scholarships, because there are scholarships given out here in this part of the world, and they are looking for people, not only in track and field, but in other sports. Like I said, softball for girls, baseball for men. Why can't we have those sports running and get our kids out of, because they have the talent sitting on it, but there's no way for them to use it. Let us give it a try. Let us expand our sports in our nation for the best of our young people. Let us give it a chance. Let us say, oh, this is where we are, so we don't play. No. Expand, open it up for them. Give them the opportunity. If you don't work out, you don't work out. Then you say, yes, we try. At least you try. But give it a chance. Give it a chance.
Mhm. Yeah, the whole, and I think, and taking it from someone like you who involved in track and field, the whole idea is to ensure that we broaden our scope in terms of sports and sports development and sports participation. And as you indicated, if someone is showing an interest in baseball or softball or golf, give them the opportunity. Everyone would want to play or may not feel to play netball or cricket or football or be a runner.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we build it in such a way, we fashion it in such a way that you have to either play, you either have to be a cricketer, a footballer,
Oh, track and field.
or track and field,
Yeah.
and if probably a netballer, you may stand a chance. If you're a basketballer, you may stand a chance. Listen, and that's what, to an extent, I love the North American system for. Whatever you want to be, you can be.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to be, you can be.
Same thing with the Canadian system, because I'm saying
Well, that's why I said North American. Sorry, I didn't say USA. I said North America.
Young kids playing soccer at the age of 5 and 6. Why can't we do the same thing? It get them activity going on. It get them going, not out, not home. It get them. There is nothing. No, you know why I really get about Grenada? There is nothing now, and so many kids finish high school 6, 7, 8 subjects. Doing what? And they're talented. Doing what? You can't even give them a scholarship to go to Tom CC or go to the university. They're not like that. There is nothing like that for them. Give them that hope.
But here's the thing about it. A lot of, and you use the North American version, which is true, which is very successful. But you know, the important element of that as well is the support of the family. The parents, very, very supportive. Except probably for swimming, I can say in Grenada, and I could, well, not just Grenada, in the OECS, swimming, well, let's even broaden it because I saw it in some of the Caribbean championships as well.
Yeah.
The parents support their kids when it comes to swimming, albeit some people label it a sort of bourgeois, sport.
Sport, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't quite, believe that, because I know of some of the swimmers, their background. I know of some of the coaches and their background, etc. So that may, some people may have their reasons why they say that. But the support of the parents are so important, and it goes a long way in ensuring the success of the kids and the program, because the coaches and the administrators feel a part of it, and sometimes they forget about parents who probably get a little emotional and too involved and things like that. So, but
you get that, yeah.
The biggest fans and supporters of these sports are the parents. They go as far as traveling with the kids.
Yeah, they have to.
They travel with the kids, And do we see that in football? Do we see that in cricket? Do we see that in track and field to an extent? I can tell you, the Bahamas, I know for the Caribbean Games, for example, when the Bahamas travel into the Caribbean Games, they charter 2 Bahamas aircraft. Bahamas Air is the name of it, and the aircraft. Yeah. 2. One for the athletes and coaches and the team, and the other one for the spectators, the supporters, the parents, etc., etc. That's how they do it. 2016 was a recent example when they came to Grenada for the Caribbean Games. 2 flights arrived in Grenada. You probably thought it was a presidential, Air Force One, and they accompanied aircraft, and this. That's how they do it, because there's a structure.
There's a structure.
There's a structure in terms of preparing for the Caribbean Games. I am certain that they had that in place already for Bermuda. They probably preparing it. Bermuda has gone. They're now preparing for Guyana God's willing, next year. That's how they do it. So things are out already. Well, no, they normally put it out in a few months' time, just after the summer, stating that this is the hotel, so they already start, looking at hotels, all of that, and start sending out their feelers. Parents and others start expressing interest. Whether or not they make down payments, whatever it is like that. So it's a structure. We don't see that we are from Grenada, so we can talk about that. We don't see that in Grenada, And these initiatives, and these initiatives sometimes are not initiatives of the association, but it's supported by and sometimes encouraged by the association. Some of the associations don't want to get too much involved. They want to deal more with the administrative aspect of it. So they will ask for third parties to be involved, and they will support and provide the necessary support in terms of information, etc., etc. You know, but it shows you how these associations work, how they think, and it's not just about hosting an event, it's not just about having a meet here and having a meet there, but the whole involvement of the public. And when you do those things, there's more trust, there's more participation, there's more involvement, you know, from the public. Some level of transparency, for example, you know. And when you do things in the future, there'll always be that level of support. Yeah. Because the public knows what you're capable of doing, what you have been doing, you know, and things like that. You know, make your point.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and we've seen that, and we have parents who works in certain areas where they can get sponsorship because of, you know, the position, and they know the bosses, in terms of transportation, in terms of carpooling, doing things that happen all the time. They work together. When parents come together, I've seen it with soccer out here, with the young ones, with the carpool, and there's always a support of parents, always a support of parents. And that's one of the things that we got to get going. You got to give them the opportunity to be there. You have those parents who's, you know, hot, you know, parents will be parents, right? They want the kids to get what they want the kids to have. But then you do have the support of them. And that's one of the things that is lacking, again, because you're going to have a school meet and parents have to work. You know, they're not even at that meet, so the kids never really get to see them. And so there's a lot of lingering here and there, but I do understand the concept of having this support, having a support base, and once you have that, I think you're going to be in a good place. But without that, everything is just open wide. You don't have a support base, you don't have no support from anyone, you just want to do things on your own, and nothing can get done. In Grenada, as we love Grenada, for someone to work, you have to do it with the community or with the country, which is the people. You can't just go and do it on your own. Once you work together, you are going to have the support, and you'll be surprised how much support you're going to get from the community, and you will see how better things can be.
What do you think about another point that was raised regarding the provided incentives for coaches at a lower level? And let me give you that example. And Ali DeBellot also made that point. And using this analogy that you do not provide incentives or awards for the coach in Form 1, Form 2, or Form 3. But the coach in Form 5 gets incentives. But the coach in Form 1 and Form 2, or the coaches rather in Forms 1, 2, and 3 are the ones who providing, you know, that sportsman, the development aspect of that sportsman and sportswoman to reach the Form 5. But when you reach at Form 5, you are being awarded. And he used that opportunity to make the case, and probably football was his example, that, hey, you also have to find some means. It's all well and good for the coaches at the top to get some level of, you know, compensation, incentives, whatever. But you also need to encourage and support the coaches at the bottom. You know, they're the ones who basically, to an extent, doing the hard work. They're the ones who, to an extent, identifying the talent. You know, and they're the ones who ensuring that you on the top there gets someone to continue to work with. So his argument was that ensuring that there is some form of incentives for the coaches at the lower level.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'm going back when I mentioned Henry Jeffrey. It's been years since he's been doing this stuff, coaching, and he does all the sport for St. Patrick's Elementary School. Every sport, he's in charge. And about 3 or 4 years ago, somebody in the ministry or high up in the ministry, I'm not going to call name, happened to see him, and the comment was, "Oh, he's still around. Maybe we should get him something." And that's a big name. That person is a big name in sports in Grenada. And the comment was, oh, this man is still around. Maybe we should get him something. The grassroots, they are the one who is the foundation of any athlete. It comes from Andre DeGrasse. When his coach found him, he was at a high school meet with a basketball shoes running. A few years ago, Andre DeGrasse signed a $30 million contract with Puma. But when he started, he was wearing a basketball shoes. Somebody had to groom him. Somebody had to get him there. And what is in it for that person? It's not the top. Now the person on the top really get the athlete who's really been structured already. So it's easy to work with them. You, the bottom person, have to work with them. You know, you have to sharpen them up, take out the rough ones and put in the good stuff in and get them where you want to get them. But what's in it for you? Nothing. So they have to have incentive for the grassroots coaches, for the coaches who start from the ground with their athletes, and they're going to have more incentive for them because now they're going to want to continue doing it because they're going to say, I'm doing this, and the top person is getting all the credit. So why do this and I don't get nothing from it? So they have to consider that, and it's something that is very important, not only in Grenada, but in the Caribbean as a whole, that they have to look in every sport. They have to start from the grassroots, which is the coaches that is young or that work with them on the ground to get them higher.
Rudian, you know, I got a comment there from your Canadian partner, your fellow Canadian. His name is Lincoln Toro Deputy, and I really hope Toro could come on because I want to challenge him on that. And let me give you, let me read for you his comment because we need to challenge him. You know, he says resources, financial and human, are a factor in small countries like Grenada. So swimming requires swimming pools and coaches to expand. High schools in Canada and the US have swimming pools, not to mention community centers that have swimming pools. The personnel, infrastructure, and facilities for traditional sports like cricket, football, netball, basketball, and track and field already are insufficient in Grenada. It's difficult to compare the range of programs available in North America. And I believe he may have been continuing to put, but you know, there are some restrictions in terms of how much words can fit into that. But, and I really hope that Toro can take up my invitation to come on because I wanted to challenge him on that, okay? Because while that is so in terms of the resources, it also highlights the priorities in terms of sports by regional governments now. And I use, for example, let's say Grenada, and where they have, for example, built a squash facility, squash facility with the national football and athletic stadium.
Yeah.
And, you know, you'll ask, well, who's playing squash? Or even if that is the case, what is in place to ensure that the facility is utilized?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the point I'm making in terms of the priorities. So if you know that you had nothing in place for the construction of a squash facility, then why build it, you know? And our stadium, I'm talking about what, 5 years now, you know, 5 years now the stadium is there and nothing, we don't even have a squash association, you know? And that is what I'm talking in terms of, you know, the priorities, you know? So therefore, that funds or whatever it is, was, you know, the resources probably could have been used probably for an indoor facility where a lot of the other sporting disciplines like basketball and volleyball and netball have been asking for having an indoor facility where they will be able to play more and develop and participate and host and, you know, all these sort of things, you know, like some of the other islands. So, yes, I understand your point in terms of resources, but, you know, the thinking, I don't think the thinking is sinking, you know. And Toro, I know Toro will take up the challenge. He'll be on shortly, but
and I 100% agree with what he's saying. But here we are speaking about when I just said about the OACS. If they branch out and give an island a different sport, it doesn't mean that the island, they might be looking at, they would put infrastructure in place. It's not just giving them that one, you take up the one sport you want to do. Girls field hockey. Okay, then that's Grenada thing. And somebody else is going to have something else. And then they're going to give us everything that we have in place for that. We don't want all the sports. It would be nice to have it all. But it goes with people. Our population is not there to have all the sport as we want to. So that is in one is an issue that we have to deal with. Like, for example, girls soccer. It is hard for us to have so many girls soccer league across Grenada as going to be for men, because men might be more interested in playing it, so you're going to have more of them playing it than the girls. So it could be St. Patrick's might just have a team. Instead of in St. Patrick's, you could have Shantimel have a boys team. Sotes have one. River Sally might have one. Hermitage might have one. In terms of girls, that might be hard. It might be easier just to put one team together, just a St. Patrick's team. And so that's the same. So that's what we're trying to say, that infrastructure will come in once you have the interest in a sport. You don't have to do all the sport. Choose one, and then you're going to see the one that you think you can be best in or you can be better in, and the infrastructure for that specific sport will come into place. Not put something in that most people don't know about. We have golf course. How many young people playing golf? It's there. How many people playing golf? Because they say it's a white man's sport. Well, Tiger Woods is a black man, and he's the best in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we know that young kids do not want to try golf?
Okay. Well, we may not be able to see Toro because he has a little problem with with his right. Yeah, we're having a little problem. I think he's getting reconnected there. Hopefully, we'll be able to hear him. Yeah, well, we're hearing you, Toro. We're hearing you. We may not see you, but we're hearing you. So go ahead, Toro.
All right.
Go make your point.
So here is the issue.
Yes.
None of us is against kids playing more sport, but the issue we face is with limited resources, you have to be discretionary, right? So we may have to put, unless what our friend there is saying that it's an OECS initiative. But if it's an island by island initiative, we have real problems. Because initially, what we're going to be facing is that you may have to pull resources from one sport to support another sport that is relatively new, right? You may have to pull resources from cricket or football to do squash or golfing because of the limited resources, right? We have to rationalize what you have right now. In theory, I'm not against the idea of more kids playing more different sports, right? But at the moment, unless we find oil and the economy expands and we have additional resources to pump into sports, it's almost impossible for us to do it. So let's say I mentioned the example of swimming. Right now, the Swimming Association has been calling for Olympic-sized swimming pool. We expand swimming, we're going to need more swimming pools, we're going to need more coaches. So again, in theory, I support these ideas, but we do not have the resources right now, and we do not have the personnel right now. It will be stretching resources, pulling from one to invest in the next. At this point, we have to be strategic in how we apply the resources, financial, human, to the sports that we possibly are good at and we possibly could win at. There's no way we're going to win any squash tournament, golf tournament, curling tournament, anywhere in the near future in the next 100 years. And that's my
I'm surprised you didn't mention. I'm surprised you didn't mention hockey.
Hockey. We need a professional Grenadians playing in the National Hockey League. You understand?
Yeah,
right, so that's my point.
Right, but in addition to that, Toro, where do you see us? And I understand, and I fully agree. I think while you were making the connection, Rudian was making that point as well. You know that we fully agree with that too. But where do you see it as a starting point for us moving to where we could get to?
I think it begins, as Rudian was saying, watch, for us to really do anything new or different, in fact, for us to even start, let's say with the West Indies cricket team, we have to start relooking this team from the primary school and start building to win again in the next 20 years. We have to forget trying to win with this current West Indies cricket team we have right now. Sports internationally has reached a level where it's become more scientific, where it's become more of a mind game rather than raw talent. So what we need to do is incorporate sports as part of the intellectual training of our athlete. So when they get to the international level, they could compete mentally and physically with the rest, right? So whether it's the current sports we're involved in, the traditional sports like cricket, football, etc., or whether it's new sports being introduced, we have to start with the primary school students, teaching them all aspects of the game, mental, physical, and everything. So I believe it begins and at that level, and hire coaches, good coaches at that level. What we have done traditionally is wait until the kids reach secondary school at the best, so you get a good coach there, or when they get at the community level, they get good coaches. All the best countries in the world in sports, they hire good coaches at the primary level. So by the time the kids leave primary level to go to secondary, they're well on the way. So again, we have to start at the primary school level, building these kids, rather than waiting until a guy leaves school and when he reaches secondary school in Form 1, Form 2, or Form 3, we say, whoa, that guy got talent. Then we try to train him now. That man, but in sports, that guy is halfway an old man. By the time you reach the mid-20s in sports, you're old already. So we are really starting too late. Let's start at the primary school level.
Yeah. And while you're there, Toro, there are a couple of points I want you to comment on, because I think Ali Develop made some points during the week, and I want to get your views on it as well. It has to do, we started off with one of it, has to do with Career Day, for example. And, and I never thought about it until Ali raised it, that, Career Day, you go to school, and we know that as growing up as kids, and everyone wants to be a lawyer, a doctor, a pilot. No one wants to be a sportsman or a sportswoman, No one wants to be a sports coach, No, even though we have outstanding sporting personalities, the Kirani James, the Anderson Peters, world champions, as you would say. But no one wants to be. And he used another point that if you ask for permission to go to the library during school, the teacher will say, no problem. But if, I decide to ask for excuse to probably go and play some basketball or football, they will say, you're going and play games, you're going and have fun, and the sort of disparity, What's your take on that, Toro?
Well, I agree with Ali, and that's so very, very true. In fact, there was Career Day at a school in Grenada, and Hamlet Mark posted something on his Facebook page. And I noticed some of the kids said they wanted to be SSU police officer. One guy wanted to work with Nawasa. And I said, Hamlet, you see why the media is in trouble in Grenada? Not one of the kids said they wanted to be a journalist or wanted to work in media. And it's the same thing with sports. So I'll give you an example of my own life. I mean, it may sound funny. I played a lot of football. I played junior national. I played GBSS. And to be honest, I never knew the paid people to go to school and to play football until I got to North America. I remember going to university and I sat next to a guy. He said, oh, I'm on a football scholarship. I said, what? Football? What? So you mean they're paying your fees to go to school and that kind of stuff? And the guy told me, yes. So again, it comes back to the old mindset. There's career there, but nobody doesn't position sports as a professional sort of living. Neither do they position journalism and broadcasting and broadcast journalism. So again, I agree with you. It needs to fit in with everything we're doing. We need to expand the definition of a profession. I mean, I'm sure most kids don't see Kirani James, for example, as participating in a profession where he's making a living. So I totally agree with that concept. We need to change the mindset where profession in the minds of most people, including teachers, still remains lawyer, doctor, etc. So that I agree with that point. Absolutely.
And the other point has to do with which by the way is a nice segue because it's something you just mentioned about in terms of the development process, starting at a very early age. He was making the point of providing incentives, and I know that is a big thing for you when it comes to providing incentives for people. You know, incentives for coaches at the lower level. You know, Toro, a coach coaching at Form 1 and Form 2, not getting anything, but when you reach the Form 5, you're getting something. How much fair is that to the person who's really unearthing the talent, developing the talent for you, and you not getting anything, but somebody getting something on top? He is saying balance it, ensure that there is some sort of incentive, some sort of recognition for those at the bottom as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, and something we also need to do. I know that our private sector is a relatively small private sector, but I think they can also examine creative ways in which they can support that kind of new infrastructure we are talking about as regard to sports. Because, in all fairness, I don't think the government itself could provide all the support we need to really elevate sports and make it a profession and start from the primary school level. I think that the private sector needs to find some creative ways to do the kind of things we are talking about. I mean, nobody's talking about paying the coaches to get rich or whatever, but a little stipend. I mean, some of these guys, I'm sure if they don't have their own personal vehicles, catching the hell to get home after doing the work, or if they have a vehicle, even a little money to buy gas will help. So I think the whole relook and restructuring must involve the private sector, must involve government, must involve the school system, must involve parents, as you guys were saying. So it must be a whole complete restructuring and overview of how we approach sports in Grenada and in the OECS. This is the only way we'll go forward as small countries.
Okay, and the final point, Toro, the whole issue of scholarships disparity. 10 O levels, you get a scholarship. 5 O levels, and probably one of the best basketball player, and you basically scrunting, nothing to do, nothing, nothing for you, But if you have 10 O levels, you have a chance of at least getting a scholarship. But mind you, 5, 6 O levels and quality sportswoman, and there's nothing for you to do. Some level of disparity when it comes to scholarships.
Right. In that case, one of the things I would suggest is that I know the 10, 15, 20 O levels generally will get you into a university, let's say North America. So I think one of the things we can do is, as Rudian was saying, maybe we could look at the regional level and have some cooperative programs. So for instance, Jamaica has a relatively good program in terms of track and field, for example. If some program could be developed, some kind of incentive between Jamaica and Grenada. Even Cuba, we could look to Cuba, for example, where a kid could get a scholarship to go to Cuba, not just to study medicine, even though we need more doctors and stuff like that. But I think we should not always look outside of the region. And if you don't get a scholarship to go outside of the region to Canada or the US, then you're dead in the water. I think we can also look regionally, whether it's to Venezuela or Jamaica or Cuba. So those guys who have 5 O levels and have the talent, maybe there may be a way to get them into pursuing a career in sports at a regional institution. So this is one option I probably think we can pursue.
Always a pleasure having your feedback, Toro. I probably give you enough time so you can go back and watch your West Indies team in action. Follow your West Indies.
No, there's hockey. The Montreal Canadiens beat Las Vegas last night with 2-1 up. You understand? So the trophy is coming to Canada instead. But Bas, I understand Australian white boys beating up all the bad man. What happened? Only could beat Bangladesh and those kind of countries, man. What's up?
I know
ICC is going to demote the West Indies to third division again. You guys got to watch it, man.
Nah, man. The team is rebuilding, Toro. It's rebuilding.
It's turning the corner. It's turning the corner.
It is. But thanks for your insight. I appreciate it, Toro.
No problem, boss. Anytime.
Okay, then. All right, then. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. So Toro definitely there in Toronto, giving us his insight. But Rudy, he made some very important points there. And I think it was what you were saying when he was getting the connection really regarding the whole aspect of there. And at least he incorporated it into his comments. Any comments from you?
Yeah, because when you come back on what he said about getting the athlete in the regional level on sports, there are too many schools in the United States giving scholarships. And the talent of athlete that we have in Grenada, they are way better. And let me just use track and field for an example. They are better than a lot of these kids in them who's in the United States, who is on scholarship, full scholarship. And our athletes are way better than them. But we don't have a support system to help these athletes to expand on their education into a university level and expand on the sport that they are playing, which is good for Grenada. Because if we have athletes go abroad, then they get a chance to go on the world stage, to compete in big things. People will see them, hear about them. And that's one of the things that's not happening. And it's not only to try to get our athletes within the Caribbean, but try to get them out of Grenada to expand on the sport, to expand in soccer, just literally to expand in soccer on scholarship in the United States. Because there are so many schools giving scholarship to say that we are fixated on one or two schools. No, there's so many schools across the United States that giving scholarship. And that's where I think that they should have a program for that in Grenada within the ministry, that somebody could look out for the athletes to get them out, get them scholarships, get the name out there and put things in place for them. And I think then you're going to have more athletes interested. And if they need to have more O levels, then you're going to have more student athletes doing more subjects. Some of them don't. Some of the athletes, they don't. They do 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 subjects. Sometimes you need more than that to advance. And then sometimes you just take an SATs. They need to do the SATs to move on. So they just move to that. And it's just about educating them. And they go back to the career, bringing in athletes who've been out there and can talk to them, and that can change their mindset and how they are in school and how they are towards the sports. And that can change them completely, because they're saying there is an opportunity. Same thing when Toro said it well. I came here too. I didn't know about scholarships. I actually didn't know about it until they see my talent, and they said, man, there's scholarships, you can go on a scholarship. And I'm not bragging, but when I had 75 scholarships to the United States, 75 full scholarships in schools. And I went to the University of Memphis. No regrets. And I was great when I was there. I was the second best 400-meter freshman in the nation, because I was running very well. So yes, there is opportunities out there for the athletes, but if they're in a closed setting like Grenada, like you feel like you're closed in, and you got to find somebody in the position just to open up their eyes to see everything else than just being a doctor or a lawyer or a policeman. They can be other things, and especially on the world stage now, when there is so many money out there now in the sport for sponsorship, that they can. I mean, you have an athlete who could easily make $75,000 a year with one of the companies. That's really what you're going to make finding a job. So you're going to say no to that to play the sport that you really love? Not going to happen, right? So it's just one of those things that we really got to put in place. Because right now I have one of the coaches we're working together who have 2 athletes who's going to go pro. It's all about, he's picking up all the calls right now, and wait to who want to pick them up. You got to let those athletes in Grenada know on Corridor, bring in those people to talk to them, even if it's via to Zoom, because of the situation we're in now. Have them, even though they're in the United States, and you can speak to the class through Zoom, letting them know there's an opportunity in your sport. Take it serious. Be committed to it, and
Well,
that could be good.
well, I'm glad you mentioned the whole issue of Zoom and all of that, because Toro added this that should mention Europe as a market for sportsmen and women for scholarships and a possible professional career. 99% of the focus is on Canada and the United States. Okay.
Yeah.
And while you mentioned the whole issue of Zoom too, I recall some time ago, some months ago, speaking to a basketballer, for example, who
Yeah.
spoke about he deciding to, record while in Grenada, doing a recording of all the matches, basketball matches he plays, when he's training, and just putting these things up on YouTube and selling it out to coaches and things like that. So, and that what actually got him a scholarship,
The attention.
Yeah, it attract the attention of coaches, and he's now playing in Europe. He's now playing basketball in Europe. So I'm glad you made that point about Zoom and using technology. Toro makes a point about marketing in places like Europe and other
I don't
places.
know about
And
I don't know much on the European level, and I don't want to say like I do because I don't. I can only speak on what I know. I do not know much about the European in terms of getting kids scholarship and expanding. I really don't know much about it. If I knew more about it, I would look into it a lot more, but I don't know. I only know what being here. Because I have one of my athletes went to a college here, get a scholarship to play here. They get both academics and track and field scholarship to go to school right here at York University. And it's a help for the parents, right? Because the best we could have done, because there was no meets in the past. So I had to, pull my strings to get them in a school here than consider to the US because we had no meets for them to compete in. But that's the situation. There is that.
yeah, and there's there are different sides to that too, because I understand your point and I understand Toro's points as well, because here is another example. While it may seems to be easier for North America. When I say North America, I'm referring to, Canada and the US, because someone might be able to, rely on the support of a family member just in case, etc., in North America. There's also the issues regarding the visas and all the necessary logistics that involve sometimes in Europe, for example, Grenada and some of the other countries in the Caribbean, they have arrangements, visa-free travel to these places in Europe, and Europe meaning various parts of Europe, right?
Yeah.
Albeit you might have the language barrier, okay, because England may be the UK may be the only English speaking one of the few, right? And things. So you may have the language barrier, but in terms of logistics and all of that, you have easier access to travel there, and albeit, as I said, you may have the logistical challenges in terms of family, and then when you have your time off, you can afford to visit family, friends somewhere. You'll find there's at least someone you will find, whether it's in Canada or the US, to go, right, this sort of thing. In Europe, it's sort of difficult, right? Unless you strike up some friend or whatever. Probably the UK, you might stand a chance in the UK, and things like that. So it has to strike a balance and things like that. So people may weigh the options, okay? But the bottom line, I think, of what you're saying and what Toro is saying, the opportunities. There are opportunities, and what we need to do is start seeking these opportunities. And another point he made, which I thought it was well, crafted, in that a lot of times, it's not so much. We tend to point a lot of fingers at governments, and I say governments in that, whether it's in Grenada, St. Lucia, whatever it is, but forgetting that the communities, schools, parents, clubs,
Yeah.
associations, everybody have a part to play.
Everybody have a part to play.
And
Yeah.
you can't expect a government to think about giving a scholarship or seeking a scholarship or, doing this or doing that. I mean, why a club or school, seek support or whatever it is for your, listen, I'm a principal of a school or I'm involved in a school. And I'm just using as an example.
Yeah.
I know that at the end of the year, every year, I will be losing X amount of students. One of my goal or ambition will be to start looking for opportunities for these graduating seniors. Some of them may want to move on to TAMCC, TA Marshall Community College, St. George's University. Some may have an interest in going to expressing an interest to go to, as you indicated, to Jamaica. They may want to go to sixth form and participate they may have a wish to participate in the Boys and Girls Champs in Jamaica.
Yeah.
So they may have expressed an interest in going to Edwin Allen or St. Javo or wherever.
Yeah.
I'm using my influence or my position as a teacher or principal or someone in the school to start looking for these opportunities to help my students, and it's not just a situation of hoping that the government do this or the government do that. Yes, the government may be able to get involved at some stage because you may approach them for certain assistance or whatever, or certain contacts, whatever. But it all comes back to the initiative. Who is taking the initiative? Right now, governments may be, contemplating on what next to do post-pandemic in terms of getting ensuring that the health sector remains on stream, ensuring the education sector, ensuring this, ensuring that. Government has a role to play, yes. But the initiative could be on whether it's a teacher, whether it's a principal, whether it's the club president. And I'm not just pointing figures because it could be anyone, because the club can decide, well, hey, let me start looking for opportunities for my players, for my constituents, whatever it is. And that is the point I think, yourself and Toro be making in terms of the involvement of others. Parents as well can get involved. Parents may just be sitting down and folding their arms and saying, well, I'm waiting to see what government will do or whatever, But it's an opportunity for you to start finding out, inquiring. I know Rudian of a student, mind you, and let me give you that example because I spoke to him, I spoke to his mom, I got to know his mother, everything like that. So he started emailing, well, first of all, emailing coaches in Jamaica. Well, first of all, he might have not get the information. So, and to be honest, I was so impressed with this guy because at age 16, he was able to do these things. Many kids will find time to go on social media and form the fool and whatever. But hear what he was thinking about. Getting information about schools in Jamaica, their coaches, whatever it is like that. So writing to them and expressing an interest. He's a Grenadian, right? In Grenada, in school. As a matter of fact, he attended the St. Andrew's Anglican Secondary School, SAS. Eventually got a scholarship to go to one of the schools in Jamaica. His mom, well, scholarship, but obviously there's cost involved. So first of all, he had us to get some money to assist in some initial cost, accommodation, etc., etc. His mom went to the bank, took out a loan, right? Got the loan, even though she had a little problems initially, she got the loan, gave him the money, well, whatever it is. He went. And He excelled to the point where from Jamaica, he got a scholarship to attend a university in Jamaica, UWI to be exact. Scholarship, full scholarship, UWI. He was also able to get, was at the time, 2 scholarships for 2 other students from Grenada to come to Jamaica to study at the high school. So, and he got 1 year of boys and girls champs. He wasn't a world beater, but here it was, he used his own initiative to start something.
That's something, yeah.
Got his mom involved. His mother said, listen, when I spoke to his mother and think about that, she said, listen, he wants to be that. I don't want to disappoint him. She never regretted that.
Yeah.
He graduated from UWI. And I'm certain mother is proud of everything. She thought it was a worthwhile investment. Could you imagine that she decided that she could have done it and she decided, no, I'm not doing it. Yeah. What could have happened? It could have gone any way, any direction, But here it was on his initiative, not his mother, his initiative. He got his mom involved. The mother was supportive of him. And by the way, is not someone who well off. She had to take a loan, making ends meet, whatever it is. Got him in that. And in return, he was able to assist others, Yeah, and, things like that. So, and he was able to get a full scholarship to go on to UWI and to graduate. He was able to graduate, and that to me says a lot. And that's why I think sometimes some people ask me, what it is you see in sports, that even if you're not directly involved with sports, you still find time to come and talk about sports and do this. All these things are things I'm seeing, I'm experiencing, and these things need to be exposed. And I'm glad you on the program, Rudian, because you bring that sort of encouragement and things like that. So, and every time we speak, you try to encourage those who listening, to find ways, see how they can help others, and even for the younger ones, there are opportunities. It's just the most we can do is to encourage you. We can't pull you, we can't force you, we can't tie a rope around your neck and pull you, to it. We can just encourage you and tell you and bring you examples, bring you, these sort of things for you to make that decision.
No, and you're absolutely right, because the amount of examples that I have and the same thing. Even now when I'm coaching, I always tell a parent, don't force a child to do nothing. You come to me when they tell you they want to do. I had athletes that I get a scholarship that I coached for 4 years. That when the mother came to me and said, no, do not come to me until that child said they want to do it. And when the child agreed they want to do it, then she come to me and she say she agrees. So my talk with her and say that you make that choice. Your mom didn't make it for you. So make use of it, because your mom is paying for your program. So you have to make choice, make the use of it. And through that, she get a scholarship, she got a degree. She was on 1 Canadian national team. And it was great. It's turned out great because they want to do it. So not pushing, as parents all day, if anyone is listening, let your kids come to you and say, I want to do it. Because that way you can support them. When you push them and they don't want to do, later on, they're going to say, well, you pushed me to be a doctor, now I'm killing people's children because I never want to be a doctor. And which a lot of children right now, people don't want to be doctors because my mother was a doctor, so I need to be a doctor. My father was a police officer, I need to be a police officer. You don't have to. You don't have to. You can just be whatever you want to be with the support of your family, with the support of your parents. And that's just all it is. And we go back to so many things. I know so many coaches in the United States, so many schools. I have contact with them. I'm getting emails. Do you have any athletes? I'm looking for an athlete, and I just make a call. I say this person looking for that person, blah, blah, blah. I send the connection to them. It's not my athlete. So I just try to look out for anybody. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, as long as I can help you with a with a push with a school, I do it. And I always want to see the best for anyone. It doesn't matter what career you want to get into, what opportunity you want to get into. I love sports, so I'm always pushing in sports. But whatever you want to do, as long as you want to do it, I'm there to help. That is how I am, and that's how I've been for the past 20 years coaching sports.
All right. Thank you very much, Rudian. That's a nice segue to end our program this weekend. It has been a pleasure. I thank you again for joining me. Also for Lincoln Toro Deputy linking up with us, earlier. And I certainly enjoyed chatting with you as we always do, and quite a lot we have touched on. And I always enjoy your insights into the program. Thank you very much, Rudian.
Thank you very much for having me and the listeners for listening to us. And hopefully some things may help some people. We all have our own point of view. And we know everything come together now. We're not always right, but we might be leading into the right path. And just in Grenada itself, I really want to see a better. That's what I want to see, a better Grenada, a better sporting administration in Grenada. The athletes have to do the work. The athletes have to do the work, and the athletes got to want it. I'm hoping that they can put the right people in the position and we can have a better sporting Grenada.
Okay, then. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, then. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, right. Okay, so folks, live from Toronto in Canada, we had Rudian Sylvan, also from Toronto. Lincoln Toro Deputy joined us, and we had quite a nice discussion there on sports. And I want to say good afternoon to Wilbur Thomas. And Wilbur, thanks. Wilbur has this program he brings to Grenada every year, a summer camp. And he says that there is no camp this summer due to the pandemic, but he hoping to return in the summer of 2022. However, what they intend to do is to provide logistical support to those who are having a summer camp. Summer camp, we focus a lot on basketball, but it's overall, and he brings this to Grenada on an annual basis. So folks, thank you once again. I hope, as I indicated, that my location is in Minneapolis. I have been here for the past few weeks. You may not have known, but I've been operating from Minneapolis in Minnesota for the past few weeks. So my surrounding, everything is sort of different, as you will see. Not into the usual Brooklyn, New York studio, So I hope you pardon my appearance in terms of studio, but definitely I thank you for joining me, and look forward to you being with us on Thursday for our next program. That's a TalkSports program. And then hopefully next Saturday we should have another program. It's the program, I think, before, no, do we? Yeah, I think we'll have a program before the U.S. Independence holiday. Yeah. So once again, thanks very much. Let me just give you an update on the score. West Indies, I think Toro might be so much interested in that. Okay, so South Africa, as you recall, 298 all out, and West Indies 56 for 4 after 16 overs. 56 for 4 West Indies. Remember, South Africa 298 all out, and West Indies really struggling, 56 for 4. Let's hope that they at least can save that second test. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to you being with us for another program on Thursday. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'm Michael Bascom. Good afternoon.